What is up, watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris watch shop, and today we're going to be talking about some pretty incredible watches. An Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, actually a pretty complicated Royal Oak, a vintage Zenith Daytona in solid yellow gold, super nice, a Buckley dial Datejust, and last but not least, just for good measure, a perfect tritium Rolex Explorer. This is basically like an OG, like in the metal, so let's go do it. Boom, watch fam. Let's start off with this Audemars Piguet. It's a reference 25730 ST. And this is really one of my favorite references. First off, with the proportions. This is a 36mm Royal Oak, which is a little bit smaller than the original quote-unquote jumbo from 1972. But one of the key factors that I look at in evaluating kind of the quality of a particular Royal Oak reference is the proportions. See, in 1972, Genta designed the Royal Oak to be very industrial and tough, but really from a profile, from the case and the bracelet, quite thin and refined, unlike so many other sports watches like, let's say, the Submariner. So from a proportion standpoint, this reference is just fantastic. And this particular example is basically immaculate. It's absolutely unpolished. All of the original brushing throughout the original case, bracelet, and bezel is there. The bevels are extremely sharp and wide. And last but not least, that blue dial is, I mean, it's immaculate. It's completely clean. There are absolutely no signs of wear. This is certainly one of the best 25730s on the market. And before we move on to another complicated watch, just take a look at how well the complication is executed here. Of course, we have the time, that's obvious, but we also have dual time, power reserve, and date. And that's a lot of complication, but AP just designed this dial and balanced it out so well that while of course it is complicated, the layout is very easy to read. It's super attractive. Okay, so now let's move on to another beautiful, luxurious sports watch. This is a Rolex Daytona, reference 16518. It was manufactured in 1996 by Rolex, and it is an example of the famous Zenith Daytona. This watch was produced before Rolex introduced their full in-house chronograph, so this movement was, while heavily modified, still based on that original Zenith El Primero movement. This particular example features certainly the most desirable dial configuration. There were a lot of dials that were offered with this particular model, a lot of them much more gaudy, but this very classic, pure, snow white color has just, it's aged very well. Of course, the dial itself is immaculate, but white doesn't really go out of style, right? It's a very timeless and clean and classic choice. I'm not a big Daytona guy, and that's really because despite their great proportions, the watches are still pretty big. They're very substantial pieces. But this example on the medium brown Alligator strap is way more manageable and approachable and comfortable. You guys know that I'm a sucker for yellow gold bracelet. I've owned these watches with yellow gold bracelets, but I've got to say, I think I actually prefer the watch on a strap. Long story short, this piece is just fantastic. Now, here's another really incredible, very hard to find Rolex. This is a reference 16550. This is the second generation of the Rolex Explorer II, and this example features a polar white dial and extremely saturated custard lume plots and hands. You really cannot ask for more if you're looking for an Explorer II. This is fantastic. There is a small hairline scratch between the 7th and 8th hour markers, but overall, this piece is just choice. Now, one more Rolex before I sign off. Everything else we've been talking about today is pretty, darn expensive, right? We talked about some real prime cuts at and above the $10,000 mark. But this piece, which is a reference 16013 Datejust, this is a 36mm Datejust with a Buckley dial. under 5,000 bucks, in fact, really at 4,000 bucks, it's almost impossible to find something as rich and tasteful and approachable. I've been in love with Buckley dials since I entered the watch industry, and I am 100% sure that my love for them will never fade. I look forward to adding one to my collection, but this 16013 Buckley and all of the other watches that we just talked about are available in the Theo and Harris watch shop. I picked them out personally for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Head on over to the Theo and Harris watch shop for more information.